Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We got a special show. Of course, they're all special shows. This is a special show because we have two guests tonight. We've got Reverend Will, one of the regulars of our friends that comes on, who's very well spoken on the subject of cannabis and people's right to use a plant. And then we have Troy with M-Scale, M Research, and doing some incredible work on working with the medical marijuana program. So we thank you both for being here, and we've just got just a free-for-all discussion on all different kinds of subjects and what Troy's doing and what Reverend Will's been doing too.
Well, Troy's actually got some things in the works, so we definitely want to hear what he's got going on right now.
Well, you know, it's just kind of an extension of a lot of the good work that's being done in the program with a lot of the people who are serving patients. And what we just got back from is kind of our Southern Oregon leg of our Oregon Citizens Review of the OMMP, and it's been pretty exciting. In fact, it's been exciting to the fact that we've been going, and so we just got back from down there. We're going to be having one here in Eugene next week, and what it is we've asked citizens to come together and help us understand what's best about the Oregon medical marijuana policy and also what could be improved. And so far, the turnout has been totally awesome. We've had all walks of life, from people who are against the program or don't know much about it, to people who rely on it for their life and for their sustaining, their life, if not improving it. Cultivators, we've had professors stop in from universities. We've had people who work for the city or the state and the county, and we've had awesome discussions outlining that if we could improve it, if it could be improved. And in fact, it would be improved. We pass a bunch of pens out, and we tell everybody, they're magic wands. And if you could just wave your magic wand as a patient, what would the perfect OMMP be for you, or as a cultivator, or as a legislative person, or and we go through the list. And so far, the groups will be anywhere between 12 and 25 people at a time. We'll be doing Eugene several times, because to meet with people's schedules. Also afterwards, people are kind of like, oh, I wish I would have said, and so they can either write it down or come on back and give us more input. And
do you have the date set for Eugene, location?
it will most likely be Thursday. I'd have to see what exactly day that is. We'll be working with Sam Chapman with the Students for Sensible Drug Policy out of University of Oregon to coordinate that. Usually we've been holding them at libraries, but also at fire stations. Fire stations are really nice because they have state-of-the-art training centers, and it's part of the community. We can kind of, patronize our community, and so far, it's been totally awesome. It's been a great host, the whole deal.
It's great. We'll be sure and post your contact information on the screen so that people can take advantage of that. We really need to get people down for that. That's an incredible thing, especially getting input from patients and people involved in it. What better feedback when people are actually living it? So,
What's been extra awesome is that we've had people come in, like I say, that maybe are not completely for the program, or they're afraid of it, or they just don't know. Usually that's the case. Afterwards, everybody has agreed to go and have like a soda or a beer at at a local pub or something like that, and everybody continues to talk, right? And we've had people we had a couple, I think we had a chemical engineering professor stop in from one of the universities. And so we had a little common ground, right? Because he thought he was going to an economics development council one floor above us, right? And so he's like, this is too interesting to leave. And he stayed, and what a great guy, but it's been awesome. It's been totally awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, definitely need to spread the information and networking, and that's the thing I keep trying to advocate. We don't have very good turnouts to some of the things that I've been aware of, but we somehow need to get more people coming. I don't know what's going to take, but Will, you got any ideas how to motivate people?
Well,
how do you get somebody to help themselves,
One of the ways of motivating people is to get them involved, and it seems like that's one of the things that you're working on here. So getting the word out has always been big for us, because a lot of times we find out about it just as it's happening or after it's happened, and it doesn't do you any good. So if you're going to be doing a tour that's going in a particular direction, you got some dates set up and stuff, you know, we can always help put it out here, so if people are traveling or whatever, or if they have family there, that they can let them know.
Yeah.
The other thing is just challenging the people around you to care enough to get out there and actually get involved, because I know for myself that a lot of what I do is counseling for people, and it's like today I had a guy come in that was just so bored, you know, and part of it was the fact that he grows and his plants are down right now, which means his patients are hurting, and he's trying to get it going again. But in the meantime, he's bored, so he found himself drinking, he found himself smoking, and I'm just going, dude, you know, it's a perceptual thing. If you can't grow plants, go out and then try to mentor for children. Sit there and ask if you can read books at the library or whatever for the kids. But then you got to remember that that's where things like discrimination come in. You know, we actually have muzzles put on us so that if we're going to go in and talk to children, read books to them and stuff, we can't talk to them about things that really matter to us. These are the things that really bother me about this whole process, is the fact that everyone else gets their recreational drug. We, for some reason, don't. You know, so if that is the basics, I mean, that is the basic. You've got cigarettes, you've got alcohol, and those things are fine. You can do them at sporting events, you can do them at bars, you can do them wherever. But for us to be able to relax and stuff, and especially if you're a vet who went over to try and get people's rights for the people in other countries, and then you come back here and you don't have your own rights, well, then it's really sad. So all the people who sit there and talk about being bored, get off your keisters, get out there, come over and see what's going on with this event that will be happening next week. Get in touch with Voter Power, get in touch with the THC Foundation, find out where these classes are, and start getting involved. If you're going to let $5, $10, $20 or whatever get in your way of information, then understand you never went to college, that's for sure.
That's right. It's a pad of paper.
So, I mean, these things are important to be able to explain them and to get them out to people in a way where you can clearly understand that there is a benefit to this. And bottom line for me is I can't trust any interaction with the government, because the government is not accountable about something so simple as this plant. Okay, for them to be as disgruntled and angry and so vindictive in their process is to go out there and, instead of being able to work with us in a way where we can take all of these plants that they're capturing out in the wilderness, whether it's in the forest or if it's in somebody's home, the thing is, we as a people are afraid of our government because of how we are treated. And the fact is that if they would just lighten up in this process, tell the truth. I mean, they actually have federal patients that they don't even want to acknowledge. And these people are people who are accredited, accepted people in their own realms. So they don't want you knowing about these people and stuff because they've done a great job in their own ways. So it's hard for me to trust the government to work with us in this process. For instance, I always understood the law to come out from Oregon that we as patients were supposed to get our medicine. And to me, it seems like the most important thing is we, the patients, have a medical card, a collar, something that they can hold on to and say, we know where you live, we know what you're doing, therefore you better do everything right. Well, by God, I don't need that in my life. I am an accountable and integrous person. And you ask me something, I'll tell you the truth to the point where it'll hurt you. So I would like to see us given the opportunity to be integrous, to work in a way where we can be more beneficial. The only thing that they want from us now is our money. It would be nice if they would want to pick our brains and use the information we have up there to make a difference, such as this.
I think you bring up a really awesome point, and so kind of under that vein, definitely not quite to that level. We decided to approach legislative folks who we knew were absolutely, at least probably from the cannabis community, would label as the most negative. Mm-hmm. Most negative, meaning that not only were they had an issue or a challenge that seemed to be unsolvable against cannabis, but also were doing something about it to put more regulation or to to alter the program to so it would benefit patients less. So we decided to just go and ask them and if they would sit down and talk with us.
Cool.
Right? And so what we've found is that I should probably caveat this. What you were talking about with the federal patients, that information I believe is definitely well buried. In fact, nobody in Oregon, the legislator, has even heard of it, right? And so part of it is educating that group like everyone else. We spend a lot of time, teaching about stuff.
Good.
But we also spend time teaching people who don't know much about it to begin with or don't want to know about it, meaning the outside the cannabis. We call them outside the bubble people. And so when we've given them the chance to listen to our take or our project, basically showing, right? So the M-Scale project is not so much, although I really like the way it looks and hopefully is very simple to use and very helpful, but it's really based on the best practices that certain folks within the OMMP are doing already, right?
Okay.
So our inspiration was based on people who are already helping patients in a way that we would all be proud of. Right, as a patient, we would think, "Gosh, this person really is doing a good job for me."
Cool.
When we expose the Oregon legislature, even what we would consider the most negative, they may not be the most negative, but I think based on a criteria that a canna person would probably put together, they would say that's definitely negative. What we found is they're absolutely open. They're wanting to learn more. In fact, and I can't speak for them. Hopefully, as we get further and further along with them, what we'll find, and they'll be able to speak for themselves. Maybe one of them would even come on this show and talk about it. But
Always invited.
But one of the things that we found is they didn't know. And when we start exposing the science behind this, the 27,000 medical papers on cannabis, on marijuana, we can just go through a couple of them and it blows their mind in the fact that how could we not know about this? Well, one is they weren't seeking that particular knowledge, right? But when we present them in front of it, and then we present the opportunity that Oregon as a location, as a geographical location, and the technology that it presents. I mean, it is a medicinal technology, right? Because we can't make a medicine that won't kill you, right? We can't make a medicine that will regrow brain cells, right? And we can't make a medicine that doesn't have really addictive issues, right? So really what we've got is that whoever made cannabis has created a technology that we as smart human beings and the smartest of human beings can't duplicate, right? So it's a technology in that sense because we can't manufacture or design something better. And so when we present it to them like that, and we presented it to them as a resource that basically Oregon can provide more so, faster, better, leaner, less cost, higher quality, right? We may not grow oranges real well, but we would surely grow this medicine better than anywhere else in the United States and possibly the world, right?
See, an interesting part of that, though, is that they, like now you're saying they have this desire. A year, 6 months, 2 years ago, they really didn't have the desire because we were there trying to get them to open up at that point in time. And the thing was, it was just so closed down that you couldn't put good information out there because they had their own people in there that were working with them and made it incredibly difficult for us to get these simple truths out.
I gotcha.
So I'm really glad to hear that our legislature has started opening up. So many people are happy that Floyd Brzezinski got the industrial going. But at the same time, once again, it's an impotent bill if you cannot grow. And you cannot grow as long as you do not have the federal tax stamp changed. And they don't want to change that because that's what holds us by the nuts. And that's what the federal government does at this point in time, lie, and then enforce the rules and regulations with us by, you're not going to get your federal money for this if you don't support us with this legislation for the DEA controlling pot. And like you talked about with it being shifted down into Schedule 2, but still being treated as a Schedule 1. Here we go with the double talk again. Right. How are you supposed to trust somebody and believe in them when they're not being held accountable for what they're saying and doing?
Absolutely. I totally
Now,
agree.
the Attorney General, to me, is the one person in this country, in this state, in every state, who, like they did with cigarettes, has the potential to tell the federal government, look, not in our state. Do not threaten us with taking federal funds from us because we have a belief system that's different than the one that you put out.
Right.
I mean, I thought that's why we moved here in the first place, was to get away from King George, who was taxing us to the point where we had nothing. And so people left and came over here, and they made a difference. Now, to me, we have nowhere to go. So the thing is, go to the Attorney General and ask him to make a decision about this and to support us in getting that federal tax stamp, for one thing, shifted industrially. And as far as medicinally goes here, we have the right and we should have the power to make it the way we would like it to be here so that the law is enforced the way it was stated, which is patients get their medicine, not patients get collared with a card that lets you know that they want the medicine. That's only injurious to the people out there who do not have the funding to be able to get this medicine, and then they get punished if they're trying to get their medicine because they're going outside the law. So, I mean, you're setting up a scenario that's not beneficial for the people. What is the government doing when they're doing something like this? It's not the will of the people, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So.
A friend of ours from Southern Oregon brought up, and I'll murder the word, but it's Les Miserables.
Les Miserables?
Yeah, Les Miserables, in the idea in that people are trying to make it work, but and that story seems, you know, my limited understanding of that story seems that it's a very similar parallel.
Yes, it is. And so the thing, though, once again, it always comes back upon the people. It's not the government's fault because the government will get away with whatever it can. And I mean, for me, we don't call them on it, they're not going to make a difference. And right now, this lie about marijuana, there are so many people who are dying from cancer. They could have a much better opportunity. I mean, all of the herb that they have confiscated in this country in just 1 year, if it were used by cancer patients to do research, could totally make a difference, because if you spend billions of dollars and you're looking in the wrong area, it's not going to get you a medicine. You got to be looking where the medicine is, and that we try to tell them that, you know, Rick Simpson in his backyard created a medicine that was helping his cancer patients, and what they do in Canada, they chased him out of the country. So what is wrong with this picture, folks, that you don't want to know an organic medicine which can help you without the side effects of all the prescription medications you got out there? That simple statement itself tells you why the pharmaceutical companies and others do not want us to be able to get this message out to you.
Which is a great name for Rick Simpson's thing, Run from the Cure.
Run from the cure.
And by the way, there's 2 meanings in that. I always thought of running from the cure. In other words, they don't want to hear the cure because it's pot and they're running away from it. But actually, there's another meaning to it, running away from the cure, running away from chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that angle. Somebody else mentioned that. That's kind of a double meaning, and it works even better. So.
Well, as you guys know, we work with a lot of patients, and we do a lot of before and after involvement with the OMMP study. It's called the POPE. And we basically draw the line at when they enter the OMMP and what they were doing medically, pharmaceuticals, time with doctors, you know, visits, and, you know, what was their medical drag on the system, and then what was it afterwards. But one of the things, and it's an awesome project, but I'm going to share something that's pretty personal to myself.
Is that with Jen and Grow For Me? Is that anything to do with her?
No. That's okay. My grandfather was a fellow who was real active, and he suffered from a particular fast-growing brain cancer, right? And he kind of went from water skiing to dying in about 6 months. And looking back and working with the hospitals, that kind of stuff, we were given a very limited options, especially with my background in organic chemistry. I was a little upset with that we couldn't really talk a lot about even conventional chemotherapies that were made after 1967, 1968, right? A little rough. But now, when we're working with patients, eventually from time to time, we'll run into a patient who has the same cancer that my grandfather has, and they're alive 7 years, 8 years. Now, I personally was not done with my grandfather. He was a great guy. And it's definitely one of the things that kind of drives me in this project, because if we would have been exposed to that option, then maybe there was a chance, because it's the same super aggressive cancer that he had, dealing with the blood-brain barrier, right? Another issue that cannabis is able to get past. And I'm really glad that it's working for other people's grandfather, but I would have liked that for my own grandfather.
Yeah, for me, my personal story is my friend Philip, who's been doing dialysis for 25 years. I just think about that statement, because most people, it's 2 to 5 and they're dead.
Right.
And the one thing he's tried to say, and he's had to work real hard, they've actually sent him to Salem and other places to get away. But He says, it's so interesting to me, myself and another friend who've been doing this for a long time, we keep living while all these other people keep dying, and we're trying to tell them the difference is marijuana. And they don't want to hear it. They'll punish us because we're saying it. Now, folks, this is the medical industry. Okay, there's nobody forcing the medical industry to do this. So I would like to know why, and there are a lot of chemotherapy. I'm sorry.
I meant to remind everybody to turn off their phones. I've done it myself a few times. We are getting towards the end of the show, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest coming up 2012. We're working on it now. It's going to be an incredible year. We're going to be at the Maury Jacobs Park. That's just been finalized. We'll be back at the park. It'll be our 3rd year in a row. Also, on February 15th, we're having the fundraiser, which will be our annual Sweet Leaf Valentine Ball. That's February 18th, and it'll be at the Voter Power Building. You can get the details on our website. We'll have our website updated fairly soon to get that up. And I wanted to let you know that it's coming, and we're working on it. It's going to be bigger and better than last year, so it's going to be incredible. And really, any wrap up, we got just a very little time. So
I apologize for the phone call. Other than that, you know, the Attorney General is the person I feel is supposed to be interpreting this law for us. My understanding of the law was to get the medicine to the patients and to make sure that there wasn't abuses going on. I'd really like him to take a look at that, because if that's what the law has stated, I want to know why we have to pay $300 for a piece of paper in order to get our medicine. Nobody else has to do that. #1 discriminatory practice in the state of Oregon, discriminated against marijuana patients.
And they doubled the fees for the program.
Doubling the fees to the program makes it much better.
Yeah, so it's pretty expensive. Well, thank you for coming in, Troy, and we'll
definitely.
keep check the information on our website.
Awesome.
You contact members and keep in touch, because we're all here working for you and for the cause.
That's it, the cause.
Yep, that's it. So appreciate it, and come by next week, and you'll learn even more. Thanks a lot. We're gone.
All right, that's the one, Jerry.
So I got Troy with M-Scale, and we have some little blocks that we're going to be making up, and you'll be seeing in different shows. And today we wanted to talk about M-Scale, and I wanted to have Troy tell us, how do patients become involved? Because this situation helps patients on so many fronts, but one of the main ones is that it helps a patient acquire medicine that they don't have to pay for, and all they do is give up a little bit of their time, and it not only gives them free medicine, but also it's helping other patients so that they can know how that medicine might affect. So you want to pick that up and go with it?
Absolutely. So to address the function of how to become involved with the M-Scale project, the core of the M-Scale project that works with patients and is a patient advocate, even back to our program. So we wanted people fighting for patients, even within our own group. We took the M-Scale project and we broke off the patient and the physician side into a group called Patient Sciences. Patient Sciences is the M-Scale project in regards to the M-Scale. Okay? People in different cities working in different places are kind of like champions of that region, because we need that one-on-one. So here in Eugene, that person would be Nan, and she works at the Voter Power office up on River Road.
River Avenue.
Oh, I'm sorry, River Avenue. And you can access the program through patients at m-scale.com. So if you're interested in learning more, in coming to a class, in getting involved with the program itself, that would be a very easy way to start, by just sending an email. What will happen, so that's patients at m-scale.com.
Okay.
But what you'll end up doing is that I will work with you, but what will happen is we'll also have a champion. Now, people in Eugene are super lucky because Nan is a wonderful person.
Oh, yeah.
In Portland, there's a fellow named Lucas. He is equally great, okay? But he would be somebody that would definitely be working with people up in the Portland area, okay? There's people down in Southern Oregon, okay? And her name is Eva. She is we just got really blessed by getting some really great people.
Is that Eva Cunningham?
No.
Or different Eva?
Yeah,
Okay.
different Eva. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is we'll set up those relationships and being able to work on a one-on-one basis, that high value or that high touch, that high interaction, utilizing the project. So you start out by emailing. If you happen to be in Eugene, the cool thing about Nan is that she is working with the voter power as well, so it's easy to run into her. And she demonstrates the best of what our program is doing. But a patient would get involved with the M scale through our patient sciences group, and in that we would assess what medicine that they need, the effects that they need, okay? We can help, if they would like to participate in the evaluation program, then they get samples of medication that's serialized so they don't know what it is. And the reason why that's important is that your version of a medicine, or your choice in how you make your medicine and how I make my medicine, is actually different. Your grow techniques are different than mine. The cannabinoid or the medicine profile changes, and so my medicine may work for some patients better or worse than your medicine works better or worse from. And so it's actually your signature medicine. That's yours. We were both growing, say, Trainwreck is a popular strain, and it had a Troy signature on it. It would be different than if it had your signature on it, and it's going to serve different patients. So we look at a statistical analysis of those effects to find trends. And so the beginning is, you can email us. That's probably the easiest, patients@mscale.com. You're going to work with some champions who are experts in this particular program, who also are close, right? Because patients sometimes have trouble traveling, so it doesn't make sense to have kind of a M-scale center as far as, because it's easier for us to reach out to them. Because we need the data, and that data is effective for patients who need that medicine. We'll use statistical regression to find out what's likely. What we're looking for is 85% of the time, what's the medicine going to do? And often what we find is the other 15% of the time, it groups. And so really, it's kind of like most of the time it does this, but for statistically, the other 15% of the people find out that it kind of does this, and then for some people, it's definitely random. But the cool thing is it sets your expectations.
That's excellent. So that's patients, plural, patients at mscale.com. We'll have that up on the screen for you too.
M-scale with a dash. So it's
Oh,
M
yes,
dash scale.
okay, M-scale, yeah. M-scale dash in between the M and the scale, mscale.com. So appreciate that, and that's how patients get involved. And if you're a patient, I highly recommend that you get on that email and get with it. Nan is a credible advocate for patients. She's out of Voter Power, 687 River Avenue, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Awesome.
It's 5 to 7 Monday and Friday, and Monday and Wednesday it's 5 to 7, and Friday it's 4 to 6. So anyway, we appreciate it, and appreciate it, Troy. So
Thank you very
we'll
much.
be talking in some more segments. Thank you.